After Claire Sterling, the family heiress, went blind, her fiancé, my adoptive brother, called off the wedding and fled the country. As a form of compensation, my parents arranged for me, the adopted son, to marry into the Sterling family in his place. I cared for her meticulously for 5 years, and finally she regained her sight. The day she was supposed to truly become my wife, her ex, my brother Carter, appeared at our wedding. Dressed to the nines and holding a bouquet of flowers, he dropped to one knee, his voice thick with emotion. Claire, who had always been as cool and distant as ice, burst into tears. She ripped off her wedding ring, tossed it aside, and ran from the altar, sobbing, "What took you so long?" In an instant, I was a laughingstock. Every guest in the room was staring at me, but I didn't make a scene. I didn't shout. I quietly changed out of my tuxedo and handed the wedding back to them. She praised me for being so understanding, so gracious. She whispered that this was all just an act, a game, and promised that the title of Sterling family son-in-law would always be mine. I managed a weak smile and said nothing. Inside, I was already booking a one-way flight out of the country. She had no idea that my care for her was just business, a transaction funded by her parents. Now that her first love had returned, it was time for me to start my own life. As I stepped away from the altar, I heard Carter's voice, smooth and practiced. "Claire, my love, the reason I left, I was diagnosed with cancer. I couldn't bear to be a burden to you, so I left the country. It turns out it was a misdiagnosis, a terrible mistake." He continued, his voice resonating through the hushed chapel. "The fact that you can see again, I prayed for it day and night. I never stopped loving you. Not for a second. My adoptive mother, Mrs. Vance, shoved me aside. She took Claire's hand, her voice filled with manufactured sympathy. He really does love you, Claire. Carter was just trying to protect you from more pain. Now that the misunderstanding is cleared up, you two can be together again." But they all knew the truth. Carter had been disgusted by Claire's blindness. He couldn't stand the thought of marrying a blind woman. He'd thrown a fit, threatening to kill himself if they didn't let him break the engagement and leave. My parents, desperate to preserve the decades-long alliance between the Vance and Sterling families, shoved me into the role. Now, the moment Claire's vision was restored, he came rushing back to reclaim his prize. But surely, Claire wouldn't fall for his lies. Not after he abandoned her. Not after she'd spiraled into a depression so deep she'd tried to take her own life, and he never once came to visit. He'd only twisted the knife, telling her he'd never loved her. For 5 years, through every lightless day and night, I was the one by her side. I read to her, I fed her, I was her eyes. I was so confident. But in the next second, I watched as Claire, tears streaming down her face, took Carter's hand. "I knew it," she choked out. "I knew you had a reason." Seeing their hands clasped together felt like a punch to the gut. A bitter laugh escaped my lips. I was so naive. This was Carter, the man she loved so much she was willing to die for him. How could I, a mere stand-in, ever hope to replace him? My adoptive parents watched them, their faces glowing with relief. Then Mrs. Vance turned, saw me still standing there, and her expression soured. "What are you still doing here?" she hissed. "Isn't it enough that you got to live his life for 10 years? Now you're trying to steal his wife, too?" I looked at the couple I remembered as gentle and loving from my childhood, now staring at me with pure hatred, ready to push me out the door. My chest tightened. After Carter, their biological son, had disappeared as a child, they were destroyed. They adopted me because I looked so much like him. For 10 years, I had parents who doted on me and a childhood sweetheart in Claire who was my whole world. It was the happiest time of my life. The moment the Real Carter returned, I was instantly discarded. My parents resented me for occupying the space meant for their real son. Even Claire, who used to joke she'd marry no one but me, fell straight into his arms. I met their hateful stares and lowered my eyes, defeated. They had raised me. I didn't even have the right to be angry. I nodded, ready to leave. As I turned, Claire finally seemed to notice my dejected figure. She raised an eyebrow at my parents. "Mr. and Mrs. Vance, watch what you say." "What do you mean, Steele? Ethan is my husband. No one can replace him." A flicker of hope ignited in my chest as she walked toward me. Just like when we were kids, she was still on my side. Claire took my hand, her voice a low whisper. "Ethan, I'm just playing along. Give me a little time, and then we'll go on that ski trip you've always wanted." Carter, who had followed her, let out a soft chuckle. My own laugh was hollow and humorless. We grew up together. How could she forget? I'm the one who got a concussion on a ski trip as a kid and have been terrified of the sport ever since. The one who was always begging to go skiing was Carter. So that's what it was. I was still his substitute. I had always been his substitute. Carter slung a cheerful arm over my shoulder. "Great. The whole family can go together. My parents pulled at Claire. Don't waste your time on someone who doesn't matter. Claire shook them off, leaning close to my ear. Don't overthink this. He ditched me for 5 years. I'm not going to just let that go. I'm going to make him pay for 5 days. After that, we'll get married and live our lives for real. I nodded, watching them go. Just then my phone buzzed. A message from my boss. Ethan, the Seattle headquarters is extremely impressed with your work. They want to transfer you. If you're good with it, you'd leave in 5 days. I looked up at the stage. Claire had her arm linked through Carter's, posing for photos with both sets of parents. They were the perfect, happy family. I had always been the outsider. Swallowing the bitter taste in my throat, I typed back. Sounds good. I'm on my way to the office to handle the transition now. My boss replied instantly. Aren't you getting married today? No rush. Talk it over with your wife. You can come in tomorrow. After the accident that blinded her, followed by Carter's abandonment, Claire had developed severe anxiety and depression. When I first started caring for her, she would lash out, leaving my arms covered in scratches. But slowly, she grew accustomed to my presence. She couldn't fall asleep at night unless she was holding my hand. If this promotion had been offered before, I would have worried about her mental state, given up the opportunity, and stayed to take care of her. But now, seeing her standing next to Carter, her smile radiant, her entire demeanor shifted back to the person she was before her illness. I knew her medicine had returned. It was time for the placebo to bow out. I quickly replied, the wedding's off. On the stage, Carter slid the ring onto Claire's finger. The crowd cheered. No one noticed me slip away. After finishing the handover at the office, I walked out of the building. To my surprise, Claire wasn't at the wedding reception. She was leaning against a luxury sedan, holding a bouquet of red roses, waiting for me. She waved. My coworkers shot me knowing, teasing glances before scattering. A strange feeling settled in my gut, but I walked over. Ethan, why did you just leave like that? You must not have eaten. I'll take you. Before she could finish, Carter got out of the driver's seat, cutting her off impatiently. Claire, why are you wasting so much time talking to him? He turned to me. Ethan, the Sterling family signet ring, the one meant for the son-in-law. You've been wearing it for me for 5 years. It's time to give it back. Claire shoved him angrily, telling him to be civil, then lowered her voice to me. Don't listen to him. You're the only son-in-law I'll ever recognize. But the ring, he needs to wear it at the family dinner tonight. Can you just lend it to him? He'll give it back tomorrow, I promise. I reached under my collar and pulled out the ring, suspended on a chain. The heavy gold was warm from my skin. Claire didn't know the whole story. My marriage and her family was purely a business arrangement. Her parents had never once considered me their son-in-law. Because my origins were unknown, they saw me as some lowlife, unworthy of even marrying into their family. They paid me a monthly salary to take care of Claire. The day she no longer needed me was the day I'd be kicked to the curb. Naturally, they never intended for me to have the family heirloom. It was Claire who, against her parents' wishes, had insisted. She'd gotten it for me and put it around my neck herself. I'll never forget her soft whisper then. Ethan, since you're my husband, you will have everything you deserve. Now, she was here to personally take back that symbol of her husband's status, to reclaim the favor she had once given me. I didn't hesitate. I pulled the chain over my head and handed the ring to Carter. It's yours to keep. You don't have to return it. Claire frowned at my words. I said it's a loan. What's that supposed to mean? Don't you want to be part of the Sterling family anymore? Carter sneered. What else could it mean? He's playing the victim again, trying to get your sympathy. Just like when we were kids. Despite the family, he'd refuse a ride and walk home barefoot in the middle of winter just to make it look like our family was mistreating him. Hearing this, Claire's face fell. She seemed to remember something, and a look of displeasure crossed her features. But that wasn't what happened. When Carter was found and brought back home, he was constantly crying about the hardships he'd endured. I had to get up before dawn to slop the pigs, chop firewood barefoot on the mountain in the dead of winter. I only got 1 meal a day, and it was just plain rice. My adoptive parents, furious that their biological son had suffered for a decade while I, an outsider, lived in comfort, decided I needed to experience everything he had. From then on, I was woken at dawn to pull weeds. I was forced to walk home barefoot in the snow. While the family feasted on gourmet meals, I was given scraps, less than what the household staff ate. Whenever I begged them to stop, they'd snap that it was nothing compared to what Carter went through. But his suffering wasn't my fault. I was just an abandoned infant they'd taken in. The story of my mistreatment quickly spread, and to protect the Vance family's reputation, they shifted the blame entirely onto me. They claimed I was acting out, intentionally embarrassing them because I was jealous of Carter's return. Overnight, I became the villain of our social circle. All the other kids ostracized me. It was what led to my falling out with Claire, who had always been my closest friend. Not long after, she and Carter started dating. Back then, I was terrified she would hate me. I told her the truth. But no matter how I explained it, no matter what proof I offered, she never trusted me the way she used to. In fact, she seemed to despise me even more. Now, meeting her searching gaze, I didn't bother to explain. I was leaving anyway. Let her believe the lie. I turned to go, but Claire grabbed my arm, sighing as if in compromise. Come to the family dinner tonight. Get in the car. I nodded. It could be a final farewell meal. I sat in the back. The entire ride, Claire sat in the passenger seat, laughing and chatting with Carter, reminiscing about the happy times they'd once shared. I didn't say a word. The car stopped at the Sterling mansion. When we walked into the dining room, I saw that my adoptive parents, the Van Cess, were already there. That's when they slid a form across the table toward me. A kidney donor consent form. So that's why I was invited to this family reunion. Carter had been diagnosed with end-stage renal disease. He needed a transplant. The mandatory family physical they'd scheduled for me a few days ago suddenly made sense. They had discovered I was a match and were here to force me to save him. My adoptive mother placed a piece of prime rib on Carter's plate before turning to me. Ethan, your father, and I didn't raise you all these years for nothing. You need to be sensible. You need to show some gratitude. My adoptive father added with a cold snort, if you're not willing to donate, we can pay you. And Carter, the man of the hour, put on a grand performance of self-pity. I hurt Claire so badly. It's my fault. Don't save me. Just let me die. It's the least I can do to pay for my sins. A flash of pain crossed Claire's eyes. She took my arm, her voice pleading. Ethan, you've always been the kindest person I know. You wouldn't just stand by and watch your brother die, would you? It's just one kidney. You'll be fine after some rest. It's not a big deal. I looked at the circle of expectant faces, all pressuring me before I'd even had a chance to sit down. A self-mocking smile touched my lips. When's this surgery? My quick agreement seemed to catch them all off guard. My father's voice was grim. Tonight. The sooner it's done, the sooner you both recover. I turned my head to look at Claire. The Claire who used to defend me was now silent, terrified I might refuse. The whole act, the 5 days of revenge, it was all a lie. She loved Carter too much. She was terrified something would happen to him. So she'd lured me here with the promise of a family dinner. I didn't refuse. Fine, but I have one condition. The moment I mentioned a condition, my mother's face hardened. I knew it. You're just after money. After all these years, we raised a greedy snake. Claire also seemed to think asking for money was inappropriate. She raised her eyebrows, coaxing, Ethan, this is about repaying your parents for raising you. How can you ask for money? I hadn't even said what I wanted, and they'd already branded me as a villain. I shook my head, looking directly at my adoptive parents. I don't want money. I want to sever all legal ties with you. From this day forward, I owe you nothing. They were stunned for a moment, not expecting that, but they had no objection. They agreed almost immediately. I didn't get a single bite of that hot meal. That very night, I was admitted to the hospital and wheeled into the operating room. When I woke up from the anesthesia, I was back in a hospital room. Carter was sitting by my bed, peeling an apple. We both had surgery, so how was he completely fine? As if reading my mind, Carter answered with a smug grin. Surprised? Ethan, I was never sick. I did this for one reason. To make you understand, crystal clear. Mom, Dad, Claire, they were never on your side. To save me, your pathetic life is always disposable. As the anesthesia wore off, a dull, throbbing pain spread through my side. I looked down, saying nothing. I'd known for a long time that no matter what I did, I could never compare to him. I made my peace with it years ago. Sick or not, I had repaid my debt. After a few more taunts, Carter went back to playing the part of the invalid. He was discharged to be cared for at home by a private nurse, while I was left alone in the hospital. I reached under the bed and pulled out the small digital recorder I'd hidden in my pocket. I had a friend buy a nice gift box, and I carefully packaged it. During my hospital stay, only Claire came to visit. Seeing how weak I was, her face filled with apology. Ethan, I've hired a private nurse for you. Just wait for me a few more days. As soon as I'm done with all this, I'll be back for you. I handed her the gift wrap box. She smiled, taking it and starting to unwrap it. I stopped her. Wait 4 days to open it. Otherwise, you'll ruin the surprise. It was already past midnight, the start of day 2. 4 days remained of her 5-day deadline. A happy glow spread across Claire's face as she accepted it. She nodded. I'll be here in 4 days to pick you up. Then we'll go straight to City Hall and get our marriage license. Ethan, let's be together forever, okay? I gave a non-committal nod, watching her leave. A few minutes later, a message from Carter popped up on my phone. Ethan, I bet you $1,000 you'll never get that signet ring back. That's when I remembered. Today was the day Carter was supposed to return the ring. I didn't care about his provocation. I never intended to take it back anyway. As I was about to close the message, a call from Claire came through. Ethan, I'm so sorry. Carter is throwing a huge fit. He just got out of the hospital. You know, he's still sick, and getting worked up is bad for his recovery. Can you let him borrow the ring for a few more days? I promise I'll get it back in 4 days, okay? She only remembered that Carter was sick. She'd forgotten I had just come out of surgery, too. I replied, it's fine, and hung up. Over the next few days, Carter stayed home with Claire, periodically sending me messages to needle me. The next day, he sent a video of him and Claire happily baking a birthday cake together. The day after that, they had already taken their wedding photos. On the day I was scheduled to leave the country, Carter sent a final message. Ethan, Claire and I are on our way to City Hall to get our marriage license. We're going on our honeymoon soon. Stop chasing her. She belongs to me. I didn't reply. I checked myself out of the hospital, went to the airport, and boarded my flight. Goodbye, Claire. Meanwhile, Carter put his phone away and smiled at a beautifully dressed Claire. Ready, my love? It's time to head to City Hall. Claire capped her lipstick, pushed his offered hand away, and snatched the signet ring back from him. I'm going to get a marriage license, yes, but not with you. Carter froze, his face a mask of disbelief. Claire, what are you talking about? We've been so happy these past few days, just like old times. What is this? Did that loser Ethan say something to you behind my back? Claire's eyes were like ice. Because this is exactly what you did to me. I wanted you to feel what it's like to have the rug pulled out from under you. Carter had only ever been the one to do the rejecting. This was the first time he'd ever been dumped. He exploded. Claire, you're choosing that mud over me? In response, Claire's hand flew up, and she slapped him hard across the face. You watch your mouth. Ethan is my only husband. He's also the brother who saved your life. Is that any way to talk about the person who just gave you a kidney? Ignoring Carter's hysterical rage behind her, she grabbed the gift I'd given her, hummed a cheerful tune, and drove to the hospital. Ethan, I'm here. Did you miss me? She pushed the door to my room open, heart brimming with joy, only to find it empty. A nurse was stripping the bed. Seeing her, the nurse turned. Ms. Sterling? Mr. Cole has already checked out. Claire, bewildered, sent me a message. When no reply came, she suddenly remembered the gift I'd given her. She tore it open, revealing the digital recorder. She assumed I was too shy to confess my feelings in person and had recorded them for her instead. She smiled softly and pressed play. But the voice that filled the silent room was not mine. It was Carter's. Ethan, I was never sick. I did this for one reason. To make you understand crystal clear. Mom, Dad, Claire, they were never on your side. To save me, your pathetic life is always disposable. Hearing those words, Claire's entire body went rigid. The memory of everyone at the dinner table pressuring me, of her own part in it, sent a wave of pain through her heart. She remembered the look of utter despair in my eyes, and her grip on the recorder tightened. Carter, you bastard. You lied to me. Furious, Claire stomped back to her car in her stilettos and sped back to the Vance estate. Carter, oblivious to the fact that I was gone, was surprised to see her return. He assumed she'd come to her senses. Claire, I'm glad you saw reason. Ethan is just some stray. How could he ever compare to me? If he behaves himself and stops trying to punch above his weight, the Vance family might still acknowledge him. Otherwise, he can forget about ever setting foot in this house again. Mr. and Mrs. Vance came forward, smiling. Just as Mrs. Vance reached for Claire's hand. Claire stormed past them and slapped Carter again. Did you drive Ethan away? Carter clutched his cheek, furious. Claire, don't push your luck. His parents rushed to intervene. Mrs. Vance took Claire's arm, her brows furrowed. Isn't Ethan at the hospital? Where could he go? Is he hiding somewhere? Forget about him. You and Carter should get your license, and next year you can give us a beautiful grandbaby. That's what's important. Carter just had surgery, so the honeymoon will have to wait. I'm sorry you have to make that sacrifice, dear. Mrs. Vance's words, far from calming Claire, only fanned the flames of her anger. She furiously pulled out the recorder and exposed Carter's crime. Mrs. Vance, Carter was never sick. He faked the whole thing and made Ethan give up a kidney for nothing. My adoptive parents froze, staring at Carter in disbelief. Mrs. Vance recovered quickly with a scoff, patting Claire's back soothingly. Claire, this must be another one of Ethan's little schemes. How dare he try to interfere with his own brother's marriage? He's despicable. I'll call him right now and make him come back here and apologize to you both. Mrs. Vance pulled out her phone to call me. But my number, along with all my social media accounts, had been blocked the moment I cut ties with them. Her face grew uglier. The money and effort I spent raising him, and now that he's grown up and doesn't need me, he just blocks me. She had conveniently forgotten that I had declared our relationship over at the dinner. Her outburst gave Carter time to collect himself and craft a new lie. Claire, so that's what you're mad about. I can swear on my life, I never said those things. With technology today, that recording is obviously a deep fake Ethan created. You know how he's been a compulsive liar since he was a kid? He's always been jealous. He was jealous when my parents found me, and now he's furious that you and I are back together. Don't let his sweet talk fool you. Claire clutched the recorder. In the past, she believed everything Carter said, but this time something felt wrong. She thought back on the last 5 years of my constant care. When she was with Carter, it was always she who took care of him. It was one of the reasons that, even after 5 days with him, she was still resolved to choose me. Claire's resolve hardened. She looked up. No, I don't believe your side of the story. I'm going to find Ethan, and you two are going to confront each other face to face. Seeing that their pleas had failed to sway Claire, the family was at a loss. Carter's face flushed with anger. Claire, we've only been apart for 5 years, and you don't even believe me anymore? You're still holding the fact that I was lost against me, aren't you? It was his go-to move. Every time there was a conflict, Carter played the victim. Claire, being soft-hearted, always gave in. But not this time. Claire lunged forward and grabbed the front of his shirt. You were sick? Let's see the scar then. If you're so sure, let's see the proof right now. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize. The color drained from Carter's face. He wasn't sick, and being a coward who was terrified of pain, he would never have actually gone through with surgery just to frame me. Of course there was no scar. He didn't dare call her bluff. Seeing his expression, Claire let out a cold, dismissive laugh. I think the compulsive liar consumed by jealousy is you. Carter fell, silent, humiliated. After a moment, he dropped the act. So what if it was a lie? If my parents hadn't taken him in, he would have starved to death. I only asked for one kidney, not his life. What right does he have to refuse? If I hadn't been missing for 10 years, a loser like him would never have gotten a taste of the good life. He's just paying back a debt. Hearing Carter's confession, Claire pointed a finger at him, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. So you finally admit it. You're the truly evil one. As their shouting match escalated, Mr. and Mrs. Vance rushed in to play peacemakers. Mrs. Vance pulled Claire aside, sighing. Child, what has gotten into you? Ethan is nothing but a malicious, worthless boy. Why are you so fixated on him? Claire saw the truth laid bare. Yet my adoptive parents still blindly favored Carter. It was then she finally understood the hell my life had been in that house. Just then, her own parents, the Sterlings, arrived. Seeing Claire arguing with Carter, Mrs. Sterling took her daughter's hand and joined the chorus. Ethan's background is a mystery. Who knows what kind of dirty blood runs in his veins? Aren't you afraid your children will inherit his bad traits? Seeing that even her own parents were against me, Claire finally snapped. Mom, you know better than anyone that when I was at my lowest, when I was sick, Carter abandoned me and ran off to Europe. Ethan was the only one who stayed by my side. All his care, all the good he did for me. Did none of you see it? You all talk about how wonderful Carter is, but what has he ever done for me? I'm telling you all right now. I will marry Ethan and no one else. Her father, Mr. Sterling, gave a cold laugh and pulled a folded document from his jacket. Silly girl. You think Ethan actually loves you? He was only ever in it for the money. He's nothing more than a paid servant. If you like him that much, Daddy will hire you a better one. Claire took the contract, her hands trembling as she read through it, page by page. As she read, the others chimed in with their own criticisms of me. My adoptive parents were the most vicious, calling me a glutton and a thief who wanted to steal everything that belonged to Carter, an ungrateful wolf they had foolishly raised. They dredged up every trivial childhood incident to prove I was born bad. The truth was, once their biological son came back, they couldn't stand the sight of me. If I ate too much, I was a pig. If I ate too little, I was disrespecting Carter. When Carter tried to force-feed me spicy food, and I explained I was on medication, my parents called me pretentious. When I showed them the warning on a medicine bottle, they screamed that they had given me everything, and I had no right to show off my education in front of Carter. After he returned, being scolded was my new normal. They always said I wasn't good enough, but the truth was simpler. They just didn't love me. Claire's parents added that I was uneducated and lacked sophistication, that I was unworthy of their daughter. After she finished reading the contract, Claire placed it on the table. I've misjudged Ethan too many times. This time, I won't believe a word any of you say. Unless Ethan tells me to my face that he doesn't love me, I will not give up. Ignoring the stunned, angry faces around her, she drove home. She was on my side this time, but I was nowhere to be found. She rushed into my room and saw that my things were still there. Relieved, she assumed I was just hiding somewhere and hired people to find me. She knew this room well. She could navigate it in the dark without bumping into anything. But this was the first time since regaining her sight that she had truly looked at it. It was neat and tidy. On the desk was a stack of books on psychology, all the homework I had done when she was sick, trying to better understand and care for her. She walked to the desk, tracing the notes in my journals, studying my handwriting. A sudden desire to understand me, to really know me, washed over her. She looked around the room, a space filled with traces of me, and her frantic heart began to calm. As dusk fell, she found a yellowed, thick journal tucked away in the back of a drawer. It was my diary, a record of every important event in my life. When Claire opened it, it was like opening the book of my life, slowly stepping into my world. When I was first taken in, I was too young to remember anything else. I believe they were my real parents. My early entries were filled with the simple joys of a happy childhood. Then Carter was found, and my world collapsed. From that point on, the diary was filled with hardship. The only light in my teenage years was Claire's occasional kindness. She had good heart. Even when she disliked me because of the Van Cess lies, she would still step in if she saw me being bullied. I recorded every one of these small kindnesses. Unfortunately, by the time my own feelings for her bloomed, she was already with Carter. Claire read on, tears streaming down her face. Claire had her accident. Carter ran. Mom and Dad are making me marry into the Sterling family. I thought I could finally be with her forever, but her parents refused. They want to buy my devotion with a contract. For anyone else, I'd never accept this humiliation. But it's Claire. For her, I'll give up my dignity. I'll give up everything. Carter's back. Claire doesn't need me anymore. The contract is terminated. These 5 years of happiness were stolen time. Now that I've returned what was never mine, it's time for me to go live my own life. When she read the final entry, Claire finally understood the depth of my feelings for her. For years, not only were her eyes clouded, but her heart had been covered in dust. The person who truly loved her was right beside her, and she had been too blind to see. Knock, knock, knock. The sound at the door made her jump. Wiping her tears, she rushed to open it, thinking I had returned. But it was her assistant. Ms. Sterling, we checked with Mr. Cole's company. He's been transferred to the headquarters in Seattle. His flight left this morning. Claire grabbed her car keys and rushed out the door. Book me the earliest possible flight. I'm going to find him. Now. I was out shopping for groceries when someone crashed into me. I stumbled back, rubbing my eyes. I thought I was hallucinating. As I turned to leave, a voice cried out my name, and then Claire was throwing her arms around me. Ethan, I've missed you so much. My body went stiff. This wasn't a dream. She held on for a long moment before my gentle struggling made her let go. She looked at me with a pouting, wounded expression. Why did you run off without a word? I've been looking everywhere for you. Seeing her act like this, she felt like a stranger. I instinctively took a few steps back, putting some distance between us. Aren't you supposed to be marrying Carter? What are you doing here? I had completely let go of my obsession with Claire. Those 5 years of care were payment for the kindness she'd shown me in our youth. But she misunderstood, thinking I was still jealous of her and Carter. She said sternly, "Who said I was marrying Carter? I told you. My husband is you and you alone." I pulled out my phone and showed her the messages Carter had sent me. Carter said so. You even took wedding photos. Claire, he's back now. You two should be together. Just leave me alone. Seeing the messages, Claire's anger flared. She started explaining frantically. Ethan, I listened to the recording you left me. I know what Carter did, how he framed you. My revenge on him is over. We could be together again, for real. Look, she said, holding up the signet ring. I got it back for you. Here, let me put it on. She moved to place the chain around my neck. But I stepped away. The past wounds were still raw. Her words couldn't just erase them. Claire's hand, holding the signet ring, froze mid-air. It was all a misunderstanding, Ethan. We've cleared it all up now, haven't we? I gave a cold laugh and pointed at the ring. You giving him this symbol of my position. Was that a misunderstanding, too? Panic flickered in her eyes. I had to make the act convincing. Her excuses sounded pathetic. If she hadn't wanted to give it to him, she could have found a million reasons to refuse. My body still felt weak from the surgery. I looked at her, forcing me to donate my kidney. Was that also a misunderstanding? Claire was speechless, the guilt in her eyes deepening. She looked at me, her expression full of pity as she cursed. It's all Carter's fault, that bastard. Daring to fake an illness to trick us. After I found out, I slapped him hard across the face. I got some payback for you. Just let go, okay? I'll stay here with you. I'll never have anything to do with Carter again. I shook my head, exhausted. I looked her straight in the eye and said, with all the sincerity I'd left, no, we should just end it here. She would never understand. The problem between us wasn't about a misunderstanding. It was that she, just like before, believed every word that came out of Carter's mouth without question. Whatever this twisted, broken thing between us was, I didn't want it anymore. I turned away from her and started paying for my groceries. Claire, heartbroken by my finality, but still trying, rushed to pay before I could. Let me. You just got here. You must be tight on cash. Her delayed concern brought me no comfort, only a suffocating sense of being trapped. I'm fine. Your parents were very generous. The money they gave me is more than enough to settle down here. Claire's hand faltered. She remembered the contract. Her eyes welled up. Ethan, I know I hurt you terribly, but I realize my mistake now. Please don't be like this with me. The time we have together is already so short. Don't waste it. I shook my head. There's no us anymore. There's no future. My words struck her like a physical blow. She swayed on her feet. I saw the diary you left behind. You love me. You do. Why are you saying these cruel things? I fell silent. It was true. I had loved her deeply, but that love had been crushed by my family, then betrayed by her. I was already in pieces. Seeing my silence, she pressed on. Even without the diary, what about the last 5 years? All the happy times we spent together. Have you forgotten all of it? I hadn't forgotten, but that so-called happiness was just something I had stolen. It had to be returned eventually. I waved a hand dismissively. Claire, it's all in the past. Let it go. But this time she wouldn't. She couldn't believe that her little game of revenge against Carter had cost her me, completely and forever. She followed me out of the store, her expression a mixture of desperation and determination, as if she would stay here with me forever if I didn't agree to go back with her. But her plan was doomed to fail. Soon after, a call came from an unknown number. It was her father. I told him exactly where Claire was. It wasn't long before Mr. and Mrs. Sterling arrived to drag her away. Claire clung to the car door, refusing to get in. Dad, Mom, if you don't let me be with Ethan, I'll kill myself. Mr. Sterling looked at her with cold eyes. Claire, you have enjoyed the privilege of this family's name, and now you must contribute to its legacy. When you were sick, we indulged you, but you are well now, and we will not allow you to act on these whims. Your marriage to Carter is not something you have the right to refuse. We will tie you down and drag you to the altar if we have to. Claire was forced back to Boston. Ultimately, she married Carter, but this time, there was no smile on her face. It was only then that she learned the full truth. Her own parents had been part of the plot to bring Carter back and secure the marriage. They didn't love her either. They just needed her as a pawn for their business alliance. In that moment, she finally understood the pain of being betrayed by your own parents. She was consumed with regret for how she had treated me, sending me occasional messages on social media, filled with hollow apologies. Claire and Carter spent their married life in a cycle of bitter arguments, a miserable couple bound together by their family's ambitions. The only people who got what they wanted were Mr. and Mrs. Vance and Mr. and Mrs. Sterling. As for me, I left it all behind. I worked hard, discovered new hobbies, and built a new life. Here, no one knew my past. I made new friends. Far away from them, everything was finally moving in the right direction.